again, it's Katie, and I'm going to talk to you today about a couple more books. I've got a fairly big pile, so we'll get through those. I haven't read all of them, and I was going to start with a couple that have come into the bookshop recently, and I just like to alert you to the fact that they're there. First one up is The Silk House by Kate Nunn. This one comes to us from Hachette, and it is one of those very delicious historical novels, a little bit gothic. If you like Philippa Gregory, Kate Morton, have read Botanist's Daughter by Kate Nunn already, you are in for an absolute treat. We've got double timeline going on there, got silk, lots of things like that, herbs, witchcraft, brilliant fun. Come in for that one. Second one up is one that both David and I have on our to-read list. Haven't read it yet, just letting you know it's there. Sounds absolutely hilarious. We have that premise of a future world where we have rabbits who are the size of humans. It's actually set in 2020, so that gives me something to think about. I'll keep an eye out for them. Who are moving into, set in the UK as Just Before does, with hilarity tells us that people aren't very happy about these rabbits moving in. What do you think is going to happen in there? Obviously highly metaphorical. This one I've just picked up. I've had it in the shop for a while, and I picked it up the other day to say, I really need to read this. It was the winner of the Vogel, the Australian Vogel, which is a literary award from Allen and Unwin. Absolutely glorious cover. I read a couple of pages. That writing is I was literally smacked in the face by the wittiness, the cadence, the gloriousness of her prose. It feels like you've got a bit of Shakespeare accompanying you. The voice is unique. It's a young gentleman who arrives in Tasmania, and he's left a girl behind. I haven't read it. Have a look at it. I think it's definitely worth the read. This one I have also started. I have about 5 books on the go. This is a stunner. Britt Bennett, this is from Hachette. Britt Bennett wrote The Mothers, which did extremely well 3 years ago. The Vanishing Half. This is the idea of 2 twins who are black but are very, very pale, so they could do that thing which is pass as white. And one of them marries into a darker black, the other marries and passes herself off as white, and then the 2 sisters meet, the generations meet, they reconnect with their mother, and it looks like being an absolute ripper as well. So they're just the ones that I can't tell you an awful lot about, but we'll probably review again later. Now, first up on the ones that I have read, I've been reading thrillers. You'll be excited to know, thrilled to know. First one up from a firm, a smasher, Anna Downs. It's a debut. And she's an Australian writer, born in England, but she's living in Australia now. She's written an escapist, broody, not gothic I wouldn't say, but one of those sort of psychological thrillers. Young girl who's a little bit, she hasn't come into herself yet. She's a bit dizzy, she's trying to be an actress, she's not good enough, so she takes temping jobs, and she's noticed playing with a child of one of the CEO's clients, and he keeps an eye on her, and all of a sudden she's then offered this kind of, I suppose, there's a kind of seduction thing going on, or sort of, she sort of has a fancy for him, but he gives her a job as companion and nanny to his wife, nanny to his daughter in France, but there's something that's not quite right. So she's kind of contained, if you like, in this absolutely divine remote place where she has everything she could possibly need, and has this very sort of fragile young child to look after who's kind of covered up, can't go out in the sun, never interacts with other people. So you're really beginning to wonder what's going on. I think I read this I can't say I read it in one sitting because I haven't got that liberty, but I read it in about 2 days, couldn't put it down. Absolutely recommend it as a ripper. Very, very, very tightly written. You will enjoy that one. Total escape when it's like that outside. We'd all love to go to the south of France. Not happening. Next one up, a different feel of a thriller, because this one is set in England. This one is from Lucy Atkins. It's Magpie Lane, and this one comes to us from Hachette again. Oh look, another one, this young girl trope, but there's nothing gory or dreadful happening in this. We are in Oxford, and you discover in Oxford that you mightn't know. You get inside Oxford Don's apartments and lots of visitor cemeteries. There's a very strong Gothic turn to this book, but it's reason and rationality always win out, which is I I think my crime and thriller readers will appreciate the cleverness of this book. That I did read very, very fast again. Sometimes I just get through these thrillers. Maybe I'm just discovering a passion for thrillers now, late in life. Absolutely glorious writing. There isn't a word wrong. We have superb protagonists, like this girl is missing, and obviously everybody looks to the nanny. And the nanny is a sort of unremarkable woman, you think, from a lot of perspectives, and we very much see this whole story really from the nanny's perspective, and we are very much on her side. Are we right to be? That is the question. Absolutely, highly, highly, highly recommend that one. Now another one, my third thriller, The Burbs. This is a debut. This is an absolute thriller as well. This one had me not really ever knowing what he was going to throw at me next. Written by Kyle Perry, so it comes to us from Penguin. It's a Michael Joseph book. So there aren't really words to describe this one. It has everything in it, and a lot of it, all of it is absolutely stunning, particularly maybe the landscape. Whoops, I'll put it there so that camera can pick it up. We're in Tasmania. We've got those impenetrable, unreadable landscape of the bluffs, these mountains where things happen, where you know your way around if you're from there, but you'd get lost, where they say bodies can be rolled off at 3 feet into the verge of the road, no one would ever see it. We have a group of schoolgirls, 5 go missing. We have a legend, urban legend, like the Slender Man or the Button Man. It's that kind of story, but we have the Hungry Man. We have a girl who uses social media for, we don't really know what end. We have truths that are revealed, truths that are used as pawns or as bargaining chips in power. We have drug dealing. I know that the author has worked with youth and with counselling, so he writes extremely well into what that teenage, young adult mind might be and how that can make you do things that you really haven't thought through. Kept me on my toes. I can tell you, it was busy, it was frantic, it was heart-stopping. Highly, highly recommend that one as well. Yeah, for a complete and utter change of pace. You'll all know that this one has come in. How can we not know when Kate Grenville turns up? And a lot of us have been holding out for a new one. This is from Text Publishing. After the heart-stopping pace of all of these, you open Kate Grenville and your mind is kind of soothed by the quietness, this ability to write us back into a prose where things are more serene, more settled, more discreet, even though we are in a Sydney at its setting up, at the founding of it, where things must have been very wild and a bit barbarous and a bit unknown. But what I think absolutely hit me most about this was how the supposed diaries of Elizabeth MacArthur reveal under a veil of sort of gentility and intellectualization of her emotions. Underneath there, when you open and look in, there is every sort of passion imaginable. There's every sort of excruciation of how I move through society, and the faux pas or the not, and of her encounter with Mr. Lieutenant Dawes, who was the Astronomer Royal. I always not sure about my title there, but and will I, won't I? How she met her husband, how they first encountered each other. It's got brutality, it's got love, it's got absolutely everything. And I suppose what struck me perhaps most is there are no diary entries. These are supposed diaries. She has, each section is entitled, so it's always giving us a hint that, remember, this is what might have been. This is what I think, could she possibly have said these things? Stunning. It's a different pace, it's a different feel from Martha's, but my golly gosh, very excited about that one. This is, Lauren read this book and said you have to review this one because people need to read this one. So Laura Jean Mckay's The Animals in That Country. Now it comes to us from Scribe. I will read you what Lauren said because I did not read it, and she has made me want to. So I think that's an indication. She says, just wow. This book is not what it seems. It's family drama. You've got a messy grandma you can't help but connect with, and a dingo that sees everything. Already I'm in. You'll laugh, you'll gasp, and you'll be left rethinking where humans really fall on the food chain. Now that seems to be a theme that comes up quite regularly. The Anthropocene, where we as humans think we're the centre of everything, and why we should perhaps rethink that. So I know we have talking animals, or the human ability to hear animals when there's in the middle of a pandemic. She really got that right, didn't she? A little bit different, beautifully written, highly recommended. This one as well, Mammoth by Chris Flynn. It's been out for a little while. This one comes to us from the University of Queensland Press. Look at that cover. You've got an idea of how much fun that one's going to be. So this is one that David read, and he said, this is the story of a mammoth and his companions, a glorious cast of fossils, all waiting for auction. I actually think there's a mummy in there somewhere. Chris Flynn's imagination soars over human history, gently examining why humans maybe shouldn't always be at the centre of everything. This is a funny book with a unique point of view. You will learn all sorts of things and certainly look at old bones with a new respect. And even that last sentence is maybe something we should be thinking about in relation to all sorts of things, not just all bones. He has read bits out loud to me. I have laughed out loud, and I think it's one of those ones that don't pass over it. You'll get new perspectives, and I think we need those, particularly today. We certainly need to be thinking about things a bit differently. Another one that David has read, this is Robert Webb's Come Again. Great title. And this one comes to us from Canongate. That's Alan, another one. He never stopped talking about this one. He said this man doesn't put a foot wrong, and it's very annoying. They're already brilliant in other fields, and then they write a novel that's brilliant. This is what David says. This is a surprising read. The protagonist, Kate, has just lost her partner, and both suddenly and unexpectedly, and she isn't coping well. Doesn't exactly sound like great material for humour, but this is a very funny book, and you will annoy everyone around you as you suddenly snort with laughter or whoop as Kate tackles her challenges, but I'm not giving away any spoilers. Robert Webb writes dialogue to die for and has a superb plot that will let you escape the day-to-day for 294 pages. Can't wait for more from Mr. Webb, and that's what David says. So that sounds like one that should be definitely on your to-read list when you like quirk, human relations, and an unusual comedic take on human drama. So, yep, he snorted enough reading that one, I can tell you. So that'll be probably to annoy him. I won't read it. I'm joking. I will. Last one up, it's a quickie because I thought I'd pop something different in. This is from Granta, so it's called Weather by Jenny Offal, and this book has received, she's written quite a few, 3, and Department of Speculation had a very extraordinary book. This one is one of those small, unusual novels of a librarian who only really got there by chance and ends up dispensing all types of knowledge and helpful advice to the different people who come into her library. There's a small cast of characters. She's an alcoholic brother, she has a husband, and their relationship is kind of on-off, and a young son and a mentor that she works for, and between them they talk about how I suppose it's buying into that idea about when you can't talk about anything else, and this is a famous Jane Austen quote, I suppose, you know, the two safe things to talk about are the state of the roads and the weather. And I think she's pointing a finger at the need for humour in the face of impending doom. It's set in New York. It's very, that type of literary fiction that sometimes we run away from because we say, oh my God, you know, it's going to be so self-absorbed. I think the main and the most important thing about this book is what she says is her story, it depends what you want from a story. This story doesn't seem to necessarily go from a point A to a point B. She covers Socrates, she covers questionnaires that you fill out on internet, she puts in bad jokes, she talks about her feelings, she talks about fleeting romance and why we don't do things. She hovers in that in-between area of the decisions we make or we don't make. Is the world going to end? Do we care? How do I live tomorrow? Absolutely. But pithy, small text, aphoristic text, and an absolute delight for its prose. If you like that sort of writing, as I do, I mean, I love all of this, come in and have a look at them. But if you do, pick that one up as well. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry I do waffle, but I love them, and I hope you will find something in there that you know, tickles your fancy. Am I allowed to say that? And I will talk to you again in another while. I'll try not to keep it so long between encounters with you. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again soon. Bye.